Hi! You probably didn't believe my ADHD ass would actually get to this, right? Wrong, because when procrastination on my academic career calls, I must respond. Резина мать зовет и все такое. So, I am actually doing that, and before we start, a few disclaimers. First and foremost, I am not a native English speaker, and thus my English isn't very good, but like, do I care? No, not really. Do I look presentable? No, and I also don't care. I am literally in my pajamas on my bed. Third, you probably noticed that my username here is different than it is on Tumblr, and I would really appreciate if you didn't use my Tumblr username here, because this one is a little bit more like serious, less shitposty and everything. And I also prefer to stay a little bit more anonymous here than I do on Tumblr. So there's that. Yeah. And I think that's everything I wanted to tell you beforehand. Also, let me just get rid of the remnants of the Krebs cycle I have here in the background, and we shall begin. Begin. Jesus Christ. Anyway. Okay, so while you were gone, I ended up drawing almost everything, and now I am realizing that it is a mirror image because I am recording it with my phone front camera. So I guess I will have to flip it later. I guess we will see. Anyway, yeah, I ended up drawing Zhalia here. Here is the Netherlands. You cannot really see that, but it won't be really relevant. And here is a map of part of Eurasia with Soviet Union a little bit divided and a lot of things down there. Let's begin. Let's begin by actually listing my credentials for this whole thing. Wait a second. Okay, it looks better now. Anyway, first and foremost, my biggest credential is I am autistic, which actually is relevant because the Soviet Union and parts of it that we will be talking about it was supposed to be like a big reveal at some point, but I guess I just can't really go around that. The key to the whole thing here is the Soviet Union, and it used to be my hyperfixation at some point. So I know things about it, and the parts of it that we will be talking about were also kind of my hyperfixation at some point. It didn't escalate this much, but also I forgot to mention I speak fluent Russian, even though this is also not my first language, but I speak it fluently, probably even better than English. I do not speak Korean, I do not speak Kazakh or any other Turkic language, but I've been picking up a little bit on them due to lurking this stuff at some point in my life. So I guess I have enough of a grasp on it to actually talk about it. And also my first hyperfixation ever was actually huntik. So, but I guess that since we are all here, you probably guessed that already. But yeah, without further ado, Zhalia Moon. Her. Emo Baba. Yeah, I have a feeling that huntik fandom at this point is actually Zhalia Moon cult, but I may be wrong. What we know about her is that we do not really know anything about her, but that she was living in the Netherlands as a child, and then she moved to Austria with Klaus, but that he met her at streets of Rotterdam, and in the huntik book that I have there on the shelf, it was actually Amsterdam. I don't know if I mentioned it. I mentioned it to someone in comments that I used to learn Dutch at some point, but I abandoned it years ago. So I won't be even trying. Fuck it. Yeah, Amsterdam. Anyway, but whatever it is still the Netherlands. There are provinces of Holland because, fun fact, actually Holland are like two provinces. There's south and north Holland. It's all within like an hour ride with a train between one another. I am looking at Dutch railway tickets because I have them here on the wall. Anyway, the Netherlands. Do you like it? It looks awful. Anyway, and here this is my headcanon, but I believe that Zhalia was actually born in the Netherlands. That her parents, whoever they were, we will dive into that. Fuck it. Anyway, we'll dive into that in a moment. That they actually probably met outside of the Netherlands and then emigrated there, and she was born there. She probably had Dutch citizenship and stuff like that. And I definitely think her first language was Dutch, due to like, we don't know anything about her parents. Probably she didn't know either. She was raised in an orphanage, so I guess that she probably wouldn't know her, because we are like kinda okay, we are like probably 5 minutes into this rant, if not further, and this is I realized I never stated what we are even talking about. So do you remember when I made this post on Tumblr about I want to talk about Zhalia's ethnicity and how I believe she is of Korean and Turkic descent? Yeah, this is what we are talking about. We are talking about Zhalia's ethnicity. Not citizenship, not nationality, ethnicity. Because clearly in the show we can see that she is kind of Asian coded. She's not in the books, because in the book there's one book. She's not in the book because there she is described as very pale, but we can see it later in the cartoon, because fun fact, the book was first, but whatever, that she is kind of Asian coded. I think we all think that. So here's why I am even talking about it. Let's go back where I was. Yeah, about her being Dutch by like nationality and citizenship and everything. But I believe her ethnic heritage is actually Asian, that she's of Asian descent, specifically Korean and Turkic descent, and I will die on that hill. This is a very stupid hill to die on, but I will. Because as I said before, I am autistic, and these parts of the world used to be my hyperfixations, like minus Korea. I never actually fixated on Korea. Anyway, yeah, Zhalia Moon. So since we established that she's probably Asian, the first thing that we probably should look at is her surname. We know it means wanted to say it means moon in English, but it doesn't make sense since we are speaking in English. Anyway, we all know what moon is in English, but I think it would be like very unusual English surname. I don't think I really know any real person with such surname, so can probably take it as a first hint to go for a look as to what her descent may be. And as many people have speculated before me, this is a very popular Korean surname. Here is Korea. Here, it's even written here, Korea. I don't know if you can see that. I really hope I can flip this footage, because if not, you will see all my notes in a mirror, and I hate this, but whatever. Okay. So I actually found here in Hangul, but I don't really write Hangul, so this may be a mistake. Here they are in Hansa. Is that how you pronounce it in Korean? Anyway, in Chinese radicals, but I cannot really read it to you in Korean nor Chinese. Out of Asian languages, I only actually speak Japanese, and it's like very basic Japanese. So yeah, I only know that in Japanese, this sign, because there are two separate signs, this one in kanji means gate. Irrelevant. Anyway, so I found it, and Wikipedia cites, English Wikipedia cites it as one of the most popular Korean surnames in year 2015. I don't know how relevant it is to years prior, but I guess it may be, like, surnames don't appear out of the ass. Chyba nie tak się mówi z dupy. Anyway. Oh Jesus, I'm such a shrimp. Stop it, Małgorzata. Anyway, in 2015 there were approximately 464,000 and some more. I'm sorry, I cannot really read numbers in English. Living in Korea. Note this is data for South Korea, obviously, because I don't know if North Korea really. They probably collect that data, but they don't really share it. So this is all for South Korea. As you can see, not very rare. Yeah, and I think it only accounts for Korea, it doesn't account for the diaspora. And there are some other transliterations of that, because there's moon written like M-U-N, but there's also the one that is written like Zhalia's surname. There's Mon, there's O-U, there is with an H, and there is with an M at the end. But I guess we will actually encounter it later as well, that when you transcribe something from non-Latin alphabet to Latin alphabet, quite something may get lost in translation. We will talk about it a little bit later. Okay, now I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I actually checked different spellings that would read more or less as moon in Cyrillic alphabet, but like Kazakh Cyrillic alphabet, and the spelling with like just like Russian Cyrillic didn't turn up anything. This one also didn't turn up anything. You may not really see that, but U here is different. I cannot really pronounce it because, as I said, I don't speak Kazakh. It didn't turn out anything. And this actually, there is M. This is a U, but like a different U, and it's also with a diacritic sign. So it is read a little bit differently. And there is an N, but also with like a diacritic sound, but I am not even trying to imitate that because I do not speak Kazakh and I don't want to butcher it completely. So this one actually, as far as I understood, has a meaning. I was using Kazakh Russian dictionary, so now I need a moment to translate it in my head, because in Russian it's печаль, troska, zmartwienie, like sorrow, I guess. Sorrow is the closest one, which would be fucking angsty, but like I also don't think anyone would really take sorrow as a surname. So I guess we are pretty safe to assume that it actually doesn't mean anything, and not, like it means a thing, but not for us. It's irrelevant. That's what I meant. I kind of just checked those to be safe. I think that actually the Korean one makes much more sense. And also we will talk about Bashkortostan, Tatarstan, there's Kazakhstan. This is Soviet Union that we will talk about in a second. There are some European countries. I should probably shift the camera once. Oh, actually no, we don't need the north. Whatever. Okay, so we're just talking about the bottom half of the Soviet Union. Okay, so there's Kazakhstan, there are other stans, let's say, like, you know, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Turkmenistan. Okay, it took embarrassingly long, I am sorry, but we will be also talking about Bashkortostan, Tatarstan, and I didn't throw it here, but there are also like Ossetia, Dagestan, Chuvashia, there are a lot of those. Here we come to the Turkic part, because what doesn't really track with this like Korean heritage theory is the name, because like zhalia doesn't sound Korean. As I said, I do not speak Korean, but from all I've encountered like through media and through people that are interested in Korea that I know, it just doesn't sound Korean to me. However, you know how it sounds like? Arabic. It does sound Arabic. I don't speak Arabic as well, but like, okay, we will get to that. We'll get to that because it doesn't exactly sound Arabic, but it sounds like it comes from Arabic. And you know what languages have very heavy Arabic influence, although they are not Arabic themselves? Turkic languages. Hell yeah. This one is a little bit hard to explain if you don't have like a shit ton of other context, but I will try my best. But here at the south of Russia and like the south of what used to be the Soviet Union, there are a lot of countries and regions that, although they were heavily Russified at some point, this is basically like Central Asia, they were also under heavy Arabic and like Islamic influence, but they also have their like very own roots. It is a pretty unique, and I don't really want to oversimplify it because it's very interesting on its own, but what we have to know for this part is that this part of the world was first under heavy Islamic influence and thus Arabic influence, and then under heavy Russian influence. And that's how we ended up with a whole bunch of nations that, although their languages resemble Arabic much more than they do Russian, are written in Cyrillic script. So here's the thing. If you wanted to have Zhalia's name transliterated into Cyrillic, it would actually face quite a lot of problems because like the second syllable, it doesn't work. Like, you can either make it longer with adding an addition, with like making the sound more distinct and ending up with zhalia, or you can add like soft. Okay, I guess what I'm trying to say is that it would pose quite a challenge to transliterate zhalia as we read it into Cyrillic script, basically. But there is also this other thing that when it comes to Kazakh or like, I don't know, Uzbek or Tatar or Bashkir language, Bashkiristan, that's Bashkir. Anyway, I'm sorry. They have some sounds that are not native to Slavic languages, so they have their own diacritics in Cyrillic. So when you want to transliterate from like Kazakh Cyrillic to Russian Cyrillic, you need to simplify some things, and then if you try to transliterate even further into Latin script, it gets even more tangled up. And also because of this constant transliteration and the fact that at the very beginning almost all of those languages were actually written in Arabic script. Jesus Christ. What I'm trying to say is that there may be a lot of variants of the same name that, due to constant transliteration and also not a big difference in phonetics, may be basically the same name, but you write it differently. And here I have a handy-dandy list of names that kind of sound like zhalia, but they're not exactly zhalia, because also when I was looking for it, I couldn't find a name that exactly sounded like zhalia. This is because I don't know how sensitive you are to phonetics, but it is because you cannot really make this sound in Russian properly. I guess the closest it would be like writing L, yeah? I guess where's my chalk? For fuck's sake. Chodź tu, ja pierdolę. Bez przesady. I guess the closest you can come to that is like this, but to my ear at least is still not the same sound. Just to give you an idea of how much of a fucking pain in the ass transliterating this name is, where Huntik magazine was coming out in Russia, they changed her name. She wasn't called Zhalia anymore, she was called Selena, or I guess with English accent, Selena, whatever, Selena. Because I guess they just decided that it is much more easy to write it like that. And given how much of a trouble I have with this transliteration, I would probably also do that. But yeah, here is a list of names that come from like the Kazakh language, the Tatar language, all of those, that kind of sound like zhalia, but they're not exactly zhalia. So first and foremost, the one I always think about, because this is the name of a singer that I listen to, Bashkir singer, is zhalia. Singer is Zhalia Bakhtiyeva, if you even care. So this is one. The next one is zhalia, which is like zhalia, but with one E removed. And as I said, due to transliterations, they're basically the same name. The other one is Zarina, which is a little bit different because there is an R sound. I guess if you don't have a very vibrant linguistic imagination and linguistic intelligence, it won't make sense to you. But L and R are basically the same sound. Okay. Anyway, Zarina. Next one is Zalina, obviously, and actually Zalina is the one that features on my very favorite website, kakzavut.ru. It's like giving 2009. I cannot explain that. This is one of those sites that lists a whole bunch of diminutives for a name, and among diminutives for a name Zalina, there actually is Zhalia. It is pronounced a little bit different than Zhalia, but like it is very close. I said that times and times again. I'm not going to repeat that one more time. So now you may ask, okay, Małgorzata, but like, what does have the south part of the Soviet Union have to do with Korea, especially now since Soviet Union doesn't exist since 1991 or 2? Anyway, since the early 90s. And what I would say is, yeah, it doesn't exist now, but given the timeline of the show, Zhalia was probably born like in the 80s, I guess like mid to late 80s, back when the Soviet Union did very much exist. And as I stated before, I actually believe that her parents moved to the Netherlands before she was born, so when they met, Soviet Union did very much exist. And now you may ask, okay, but why are you so adamant about the fucking Soviet Union? And now this is the part when I'm going to tell you that. Because, no, don't leave. Fuck, I'm sorry, I'm recording on my mobile phone. Anyway, because that's where we need this map a little bit more. There are, to this day, and there were back at the time, Korean people like that are living there in the diaspora for ages, that live now in Russia and used to live in the Soviet Union. And they actually lived they lived in other places than they live now mostly. And you may ask, why? Because in 1937, that you cannot fucking see, this man that you may know under the name of Joseph Stalin or Joseph Stalin deported them. And you want to ask, okay, but where did he deport them? From where? Okay, it's not here. I forgot to circle it. But okay, there is this part of Russia that is called Primorsky Krai, that is somewhere here. Mind you, here is China, but here is Korea, so it's like pretty close. Where there were a lot of Koreans. You may ask, why? It's a long story, but it goes back to like the 13th century, so I am not explaining that, just they were there. So in 1937, Stalin decides that, you know what, I'm going to fucking deport them. And you know where he deported them? That's right, to Kazakhstan, and also to Uzbekistan, to this part of the world. Like Kazakhstan is here and Uzbekistan is like a little bit more to the south. Why? So they will grow rice there, I guess. Okay, like, there were more reasons why, but I am not going into Soviet politics here because this like deserves another video essay. It actually deserves a fucking book. It's a very complicated topic. The guy wasn't like, you know, the best guy ever, and he was just like, yeah, I'm going to deport these people because why not? And he deported these people because who's going to stop him? He's a fucking totalitarian leader. Anyway, so that's how Korean people that were in Russia before ended up in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. And in today's day and age, actually, I have it written here, in Uzbekistan, there is approximately 177,000 Koreans, like ethnic Koreans, and in Kazakhstan there is 118,500,000 of Koreans. So, they're not like an insignificant group. This is a pretty big diaspora when you look by like diaspora standards. So they live there to this day, and they did very much live there back then. So basically what my theory is, because now we are finally getting to the very end of it, that Zhalia's maternal line is one of those like Turkic nations from the south of the former Soviet Union, giving her name. But since her surname is Korean, I think her paternal line was of this Korean descent. Yeah. Now you may like ask, okay, but what Turkic descent exactly? I do not know. I have no idea. The languages and like the cultures, they're obviously distinct from one another, but they're pretty close, and just by the name you can't really tell. I would guess probably Kazakhstan, simply because it's the biggest one, and that's where the deportation were, and also I just like Kazakhstan quite frankly. But it might as well be Uzbekistan, less likely, but not impossible, are also Turkmenistan, Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan. I say less likely because they're just smaller countries. But it also might as well be Volga Tatars or Башкиры, блядь. I kind of lack a closing statement on this one. I guess all I want to say is that we are not Americans here, and if you are, I am very sorry. So, her being of that ethnic descent doesn't mean that suddenly she's Kazakh or Korean, because I really, in this case, I really believe that you belong more to a nation or to a culture where you grew up. So I would still state that Zhalia is Dutch, or maybe like Dutch and Austrian, since she clearly spent the biggest part of her forming years in Austria, in Vienna. But also it's really been there. Like, I was thinking about it ever since Kat suggested Zhalia being Kazakh. And yeah, I guess that's all the data I had here. I hope it didn't turn into much of rambling, because I didn't script that. It was kind of like spur of the moment thing. I should be sleeping now. I'm going to the lab tomorrow morning, and actually it's already today's what the fuck? What do you mean it's 1 a.m.? Anyway, yeah, I guess that's a beautiful sentiment to what this video actually is. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much if you somehow managed to listen to me to the very end. Maybe now you have a little bit of the insight of how my brain works and why my posts are so chaotic. Don't ask me about where is the next chapter of the fanfiction coming, because I don't know. yeah, and that's it. Now, instead of sleeping under the half of Krebs cycle, I will be sleeping under Zhalia moon and the very bastardized map of the Soviet Union. Good night. Башкиры, блядь.